Welcome back to the Important Nonsense Podcast, 32 teams in 32 days, Philadelphia Eagles edition. Today is the 16th of August. As we sit and record, if anything we say during this show sounds a little bit dated, that would be why. Check out the wrap-up show, the live stream with everybody on the 1st of September. Tune it in and rip the knob off. We will be updating every take that needs to be updated from when, as we've batch recorded these. Once again, Neil Smith, Jason Draven, Mike Burland. Uh, the the pointing is hard. The bad pointer. I'm sorry. It's a mirrored image. I can't do it. The there you go. That's a good idea. You should have pointed. The standard
Math
caveat.
skills, Gall. All I got.
We're in midseason form already. We're already in midseason form, boys. I love it. We're already off the rails. Haven't even started. It's beautiful. Standard caveats and PSAs apply. This is all based on 12-team PPR redraft. We are doing these as a primer to get you prepped for your drafts that are coming up at the end of the month, about 2 weeks away, in fact. We will be referencing our own rankings, but the base rankings that we use come from the Fantasy Pros ECR. We are a Fantasy Pros affiliate, as always. And thank you, Fantasy Pros. We'll enjoy working with you. We also will be referencing depth charts that come from Player Profiler. Shout out to Jack Kavanaugh. Really appreciate the work, as always. Hope you're well. And check us out at importantnonsense.com. Sign up to be a member of ours and get access to our Discord. Keep Jason company. Keep him company. He needs all the company he can get. He's got to have somebody to talk to at 2:00 in the morning and blast his hot takes right in their face. Also, check out all our other Discord stuff. For example, the Rate My Team feature that we've added in the background.
Roster resolution, baby.
Roster resolution, where
Gotcha.
for $5, we will evaluate your team, go through your league individually, and give you advice on trades, roster construction, whatever you want to have us look at. But always good to have a second set of eyes, and in this case, probably 8 sets of eyes, because I will pack that room for you, baby. We need that $5. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Need that $5. Need you to sign up to be on a member on our site first too.
Wrong. Sorry, wrong stream.
Oh yeah. No, that's $10. $10 $10 gets you into the NSFW section. We'll negotiate that with Jason directly. It's too hot for YouTube, folks. Can't even get into it on this fine Wednesday here on the 16th. There you go. Give him a little taste. I always knew that I'd ended up pimping Mike. I always knew that's where life would end me. I just didn't know that it would be me pimping the nerd. Life comes at you fast, boys. It gets at you in weird, unexpected ways.
Tough times.
Well, very soon I'm going to be doing this in a full fur with gaiters and a cane. It's going to be what we're doing. A big hat. I'm going to have to get AirPods to account for the big hat.
I might actually get my own room at that point. I won't be
maybe
stuck in the closet.
Maybe. I've always said we would make more money pimping than we would doing fantasy football advice. And we've been copyright strike. That's it. And we're done. All right. Good show, everybody. Good career. Love it. Love it. I always knew that I'd be the reason that we got shut down. Known it from day one. Ask Steve. I warned him. I was like, I'll get us canceled. It's going to happen. Anyway. Eagles.
Talk about an embarrassment of riches.
It is an embarrassment of riches. That draft.
Stacks on stacks.
That draft was amazing. I was laughing myself silly on our draft coverage back in April as the Eagles just kept winning and getting more players. And then it just, Georgia wins a national championship and then half their defense just goes to the Eagles. That's fine. That all seems fine.
And now everything's coming out like Jalen Carter looks great. It's like, well, yeah.
Duh.
Like, what?
The issue wasn't him looking great. It's all the off the field stuff. That's not the issue. Is can he play football? It's can he not get arrested? And we're shut down again. We've been shut down twice. And there it is, folks. And what's that? I've been issued a cease and desist. All right, I'll back off on that one. I'll back off on insulting Jalen Carter. But yeah, then they get DeAndre Swift for nothing. A conditional third-round pick in 2024 is not a thing. That is nothing. That's just literal nothing. So hats off to the Eagles because you already had a really good team, and now it's even better. It's nuts. They've had several good drafts in a row, but that last one was really, really impressive. It's almost like the Eagles are really good at scouting and evaluating talent. You'd think that because they are, and then they went to the Super Bowl because of it, because they're willing to take shots on players that other teams are not willing to deal with.
And get players that they want. I mean,
regularly
AJ
it
Brown,
pays them off. Jalen
Swift.
Hurts, Gainwell. It's all these guys that people didn't want, and they were able to get discounts on, and they're willing to work it out, and it's paying them off in the background. So it is a very, very good time to be an Eagles fan right now after a lot of heartache over the years.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I mean, they're still probably a little salty from the Super Bowl loss.
That's the one from last year. That's fine. I mean, they'll be a little bitter.
It's a recent wound.
They'll be a little bitter, but they'll get over it. It's fine. Speaking of Jalen Hurts, right? Jalen Hurts has been one of my favorite players in the NFL for a very long time. I was high on him coming out of college, high on him in his rookie draft, and I've been high on him since we was with the Eagles because he got there at the right time. They were 4-12 when he showed up. So he got an opportunity at the end of the year to go out and run around for a little while, and I say that very deliberately. He got to go out and run around. And then the next year, he learned how to pass a little bit. Had a full off season, got some additional coaching on the side, was able to develop a little bit more as a passer. And then last year in year 3, they go to the Super Bowl, and he had full command of that offense. My God, that man throws a pretty deep ball. It's like a poem every time it comes out of his hand. It's amazing. And then they went and get A.J. Brown. People are like, oh, A.J. Brown's underrated. The Titans are making a right call, getting him off their books. Then the Titans GM gets fired. That's the end of that story, is that A.J. Brown gets to Philadelphia. The Titans fired their GM in the background and hope no one noticed. I noticed because speaking of things I'm an apologist for, A.J. Brown, I'm an apologist for him too. Been very high on him his whole career. So this is just a team that I find myself very much a fan of. Just I like the way they're built. I don't even like the Eagles, or I have no love for really Philadelphia or the Eagles in general. But I really like this team. There are a lot of players that I like on this team, just generally speaking. I'm
kind of surprised. You grew up in the 90s as well as I did. There are plenty of movies that should have made you fall in love with the Eagles, even if you're not an actual fan.
I'm from Chicago. We don't deal with that. We weren't going to Invincible. Okay, that wasn't happening. That's not the movie that we were going to. Like, and yeah, also we're still mad. And also we're still mad at Donovan McNabb to this day. That's still a thing. So never forgive, never forget. I apologize, Donovan McNabb. He actually seems like a wonderful human being. But he wronged my team 20 years ago, and I'm still mad about it. So him himself, he seems like a lovely human being. Still mad at you. And it's probably for the rest of my life. I don't know that I'll ever officially get over that. So, but clearly, just looking at the ADPs on the sheet, gentlemen, we'll go through them one by one as we do. I am not the only one that likes this team and likes some of these players. And you're all bandwagoners, and you all can get off my lawn because I was here before they went to the Super Bowl, and I'll be here 2 years after because I don't learn lessons. Is anybody?
I felt like I was one of the first people to say that I wanted Hurts as a top 5 quarterback.
Me and John Chancey have been talking about it since he was in college, buddy. Like, you got to get up pretty early in the morning. Like,
well, in high school,
that would have been great. You should have just followed through with it. I would have had nothing. That would have been great. That would have been amazing. If you would have just continued that on it. Well, he was my college roommate. I'd have been like, I can't refute this. I got nothing. Like I've been on him since we played AAU ball, basketball back in the day. I'd have been like, sure, okay. I mean, I know you're from California, maybe. Like, I don't know. Like,
yeah. No, Harris County, Texas. Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up in Harris County, Texas. Like, no. Anyway, Jalen Hurts this year. Oh God, gone are the days of being able to get Jalen Hurts in the 11th round, like I was recommending 2 years ago. Last year it was the 8th round. I was recommending Jalen Hurts. I was all in on that. Oh man, push all the chips in the middle of the table on that. That's free money. That's free real estate, as the meme tells you. It's free real estate with that. Yeah, those days are over. Those discounted days are over. And as we've talked about on a lot of shows, gentlemen, this year's quarterback prices are deeply inflated. But also you're talking about a guy who went to the Super Bowl, played really well last year, what was the number you had in the pre-show? He missed 2 games and was still
40 points out of being the QB1 last year.
Yeah, with 2 games that he didn't play. Pretty hard to beat that.
He could have probably been quarterback 1 last year.
He was in the conversation to outpace Mahomes.
Should have been Super Bowl MVP even though they lost.
I actually agree with that too. Should have been Super Bowl MVP even though they lost.
Hey, he won me $60 because
he's not bitter at all considering
2
his
rushing touchdowns.
His phone lock screen is him walking off the field with the confetti, the Kansas City confetti. He's not bitter at all. He doesn't have any kind of axe to grind against anyone. His phone lock screen is that, like, God. Yeah. Talk about petty. Although if I lost the Super Bowl, I'd probably be pretty upset about it too.
Well, and that picture is really awesome. Like whoever was there to get that moment,
it's a good picture.
Get that moment was awesome.
Like, yeah, it's a good picture. But the days of discounts are over because Jalen Hurts comes in as the QB2, which I don't agree with this personally, but by ECR ranking, if you translate that to an ADP, he would be going around 25 overall. His ADP is 22. So if you want Jalen Hurts, you're talking about the end of the second round. That's what it is. Can't do it. Love Jalen Hurts. Listen to all the nice things I just said about Jalen Hurts. I love Jalen Hurts. I love watching him. I love what he's able to do with his legs. I love the rugby plays they've designed for him. Nobody in the NFL runs the zone read like Jalen Hurts. It's really hard to stop when you're running the zone read to that level. Even in, like, I just can't take a quarterback in this.
Well, you can't stop the quarterback sneak with him. It's impossible.
They're going to change the rules. I'm not even kidding. I think they are going to change the rules.
I thought they would this offseason, to be honest.
I'm surprised they didn't already because
no one wants to see it. But
well, no, they're already that already got brought up by various teams that they're like, you can't run a rugby play in the NFL because that's what it is. It's an old school rugby play where they just push him, and it's legal. And it's to your point, Jason. It's really, really hard to stop it.
It's very effective.
His size, his frame, his leg power. You're concerned that he might die at any point when he does it. At least I am, because one good shot to the helmet at some point, and that's gonna be bad. But it's really hard to stop, and you know what you're getting with him. You get all the rushing floor. You get the rushing touchdowns. You get the passing touchdowns. You get the passing yardage. He has great weapons now. It's all there. This team is trying to go back to the Super Bowl and win it this time. That's their expectation. There was only one goal.
And they focused on their defense.
And they focused on their defense to improve. And they got all the great defensive players from Georgia they could ever want because people don't understand logic.
Well, so they lost one player?
And I think they could beat anyone in their division, realistically. Get off that Cowboys junk. They're going to manhandle the Cowboys. That Cowboys team is not capable of stopping this Eagles team. Get
4 picks that game. That's going to take up Dak's average.
But the issue that you have, that's a deep cut. Go back to the Cowboys show and watch that. If you don't understand that reference, go back there. It'll make sense. If you were going to take a quarterback in the second round, this is what I would do. My issue is not with the player being that you want to take in the second round. It's the general principle.
Cost.
No, it's just general principle of any quarterback in the second round. Are you guys with me on this? Does anybody want to pound the table for a quarterback in the second round?
No, not at all. I mean, we need to see more. I know last year was an anomaly, kind of. If you didn't have a top 4 quarterback, you were kind of screwed. But we need to see a couple more years of that to call it a trend, or that's what the NFL is now.
I have 15 years worth of data that tells me that that's wrong.
Exactly.
To overreact to that. Unless you're Peyton Manning and it's 2017, historically, this is a bad idea. Taking a quarterback in the second round. I agree with you, Mike.
I mean, it makes sense for him, though. Like,
he's the one.
He missed 2 games and was still only 40 points. Like,
no one's debating that. He's absolutely the one that you would want to take if you were going to go into this and you were going to do it. I just can't bring myself to take a quarterback in the second round when I'm drafting top-end running back and wide receiver, and I only have to start one quarterback. I have to start multiple running backs and wide receivers every week.
And you can find QB1s off the waiver wire.
Historically, you can. Last year was an anomaly. To Mike's point. There were some, but historically, Mike is correct.
43 last year.
Historically, you are correct, but last year, I get Mike's point. Last year was why we're seeing the overcorrection. If you didn't get one of the top 4, you were probably having a bad time, and you were struggling, and you were unhappy with your quarterback position. I get all that. But this is the overreaction. This is the overcorrection that we see year in, year out. Short-term, knee-jerk reaction. Mike, I agree. I couldn't call it a trend. It's not a trend.
No.
It's 1 year. It's a blip.
Yeah.
Don't overreact to 1 year sample size. It's a recipe for being sad later.
They did bring in a new backup though.
They did bring in a new backup, former starting Atlanta Falcons quarterback Marcus Mariota. Pray that Marcus Mariota does not have to start games for this Eagles team. Pray for yourself, because from what we saw from last year, Mariota is not capable of sustaining fantasy relevant anything at all. The most impressive thing Mariota did last year was when he managed to throw the ball away while being completely horizontal. It was incredible. I've never seen anything like it. It was amazing. That's not really what you want to hang your hat on from a fantasy perspective. He can run a little bit still, which is fine, but it's Marcus Mariota. We've seen Marcus Mariota for years. It's not good.
Catch his own pass for a touchdown.
Yeah, that was also a highlight. That was pretty cool. I remember that. That's a deep cut too. That's another deep cut. But Hurts, if you were going, like I said, if you were going to take a quarterback in the second round, that's who I would take. But I just can't. I can't do it. Like,
I mean, in the top 4 rounds, that's who I would take for a quarterback. That's the one that I would take in the top 4 rounds.
If anyone's debating like Joe Burrow in the third or Hurts, and like, please,
it's not a debate. It's not a debate.
If you are fixed on taking a quarterback that high, take Hurts, please.
If you insist on doing this, it's Hurts. Yes. Don't go with Burrow. Don't get into Trevor Lawrence in the 5th round.
Herbert.
None of that. None of this Herbert in the 4th. No. It's way too much. Maybe you could theoretically make the argument to me that Jalen Hurts in the 2nd could return value if you do believe that he's Peyton Manning and it's 2017. But that's literally what you're talking about is Peyton Manning in 2017, folks, is the only quarterback that ever actually returned a first-round value in fantasy.
Well, the other thing that is unfortunate.
You had to rewrite all the record books to do it.
The other thing that's unfortunate about it is that he usually only gets to play a half.
Yeah. Yeah, there is some of that. There is some of that going on.
When it comes to fantasy
Jalen Hurts will be sitting a lot of fourth quarters. Jalen Hurts will not be playing in a lot of fourth quarters. He will be done by the middle of the 3rd quarter because they're going to be winning like 35-14. And
not care.
Game's over.
Like, okay, see ya. Marcus, you're going to see a lot of Marcus Mariota this year
in garbage time in the 4th quarter. That's right. That's right. You will have that happen. That's going to happen. The weird thing on this team is where we're going to go next, which is the running back room. Running back room for this team.
Miles Sanders.
They lost Miles Sanders. I am a Miles Sanders hater from years gone by, so I'm not sad about it. Miles Sanders is highly overrated, and he wasn't a good fit for this team anymore with the new scheme they run. It made more sense to have Miles Sanders years ago. That's why 2 things can be true. I'm not sad, and I don't really like Miles Sanders, but I would recommend him now that he's on the Panthers. Different thing, right? 2 things can be true simultaneously because he's going to get all the work on the Panthers. We're not going to talk about Miles Sanders on this show. Go back to the Panthers show if you want to hear our notes on Miles Sanders. But to your point, they did lose Miles Sanders.
I was throwing it out there because they brought people in.
In his place, they brought in Rashaad Penny in the offseason.
Very good player.
Still healthy. Former Seahawk, Rashaad Penny. Health has always been the concern there. And we mentioned it in the rundown we did earlier. They were able to acquire DeAndre Swift from the Lions for a conditional 3rd-round pick in 2024, which is not an appropriate amount of compensation for DeAndre Swift. I would make that deal 10 times out of 10 every day of the week and twice on Sunday. If I can get DeAndre Swift for that price, okay, sounds great. You got anything else you want to just give away? Like, what else you got in here? Like, it's like going to the garage sale. You know what I mean? Like, I got $1. Like, these are $0.25. Like, sure, I'll take them all. Like, it's literally like you don't know what you have. Like, but okay. They were done with him. And so DeAndre Swift finds himself on a much better team.
Also a picture of health.
Also not the picture of health. And then they have Kenny Gainwell, who's still there, playing out the end of his rookie deal. Former Memphis product, Kenny Gainwell. They have a type on this team. And then before they brought back DeAndre Swift, they re-signed Boston Scott, who's been there for a long time. And they always re-sign Boston Scott because they can pay Boston Scott the league minimum. And what's Boston Scott going to do? This is the only job he's going to have.
Score touchdowns against the Giants. That's what he's going to do.
This is the only job he's going to have.
Boston Scott's on a 21 touchdown pace with his career games against the Giants.
That's right. Boston Scott is there to own the Giants in the face. And I don't know why, but that's what he does.
And they love it.
It is a thing. They love
Sirianni
it.
continues to do it every year.
Yeah,
like,
and Boston Scott, it's like a giant middle finger to the Giants. I don't know why they do it, but it's really funny. It is really funny to watch. Because but they bring Boston Scott in. They always do because there's no competition for Boston Scott. He probably wouldn't have a job. if he wasn't playing here. But they love him because he's good for their system. He knows the system, and they could pay him literally, basically, what is effectively like $1.5 million, like the veteran minimum. It's a good deal for them. Good deal for Boston
him.
Scott.
Making money.
Yeah, everybody's wins in this equation. So you have what is kind of a crowded room. We'll deal with Boston Scott first. Boston Scott has no ADP and is not something that you should ever be considering drafting. It's just
but if somebody was the Giants,
if somebody was to get hurt or multiple people were to get hurt, Boston Scott would have a job, a real job, like an actual meaningful role on a good team. So know who that is. If you're new to fantasy, if you've been playing for a long time, you'll know who that is. If you haven't been playing a long time, look into that. Boston Scott hangs around, and when people get hurt or when they're playing in like, certain games that they don't care and they sit all their starters, Boston Scott will be out there playing because they don't care if he gets hurt. And he's just good enough to where he matters, especially in the red zone. The other three are the ones that are being drafted. So do any of you have a favorite? Who's your favorite off these?
I mean, just because I saw Nick Sirianni wearing the shirt, it's Kenny Gainwell. And the fact that it's an AAC product,
All right. Okay. There we go. The real reason. One vote for Kenny Gainwell. Mike.
Yeah, I'm Kenny Gainwell too, especially what we're learning. With what Jason just said. I think they were playing Rashaad Penny like well into the second quarter in their first preseason game, which is never a good sign. I mean, it's not a death note, but it's getting close. And I love Rashaad Penny, but the guy can't stay healthy. I don't believe in injury prone except for like a couple guys, and he's one of them. DeAndre Swift, I'm just worried because they don't throw to their running backs. They run a quarter of their plays as an RPO, and it's impossible to throw to their running back with an RPO.
It's not technically impossible, but it's very, 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 very difficult. It's very, 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 very difficult to do. Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. So, I'm okay. I don't know. I think Kenneth Gainwell is where I'm at just because the ADP on top of there's a really good chance.
Okay,
that he's just
let's go into that. Let's go into that properly then, because you just touched on where I was going to go. So it's Kenny Gainwell. I am also on team Kenny Gainwell, and we're going to get into why. Rashaad Penny, you mentioned it, Mike. Not the picture of health. Don't really believe in injury prone, except as it relates to Rashaad Penny, because that's just kind of how it is.
He's just so unlucky, man.
Well, it's also soft tissue stuff, and once you get into soft tissue stuff, that's where it starts to get scary. And it's his knees, it's his hamstrings, it's all the stuff.
He's good when he's healthy.
Yeah, he is so good.
What's funny to me, what scares me, is Rashaad Penny. They did that move before the draft, before they knew they were going to get DeAndre Swift. So that move made a lot more sense then. And now I'm thinking they might not care about Rashaad Penny as much, where it's kind of like, ooh, that's nice. We can just run him into the ground. Because to your point, I did note that myself when in their last preseason game, he played into the second quarter. You don't like that. If he was starting, he'd be in bubble wrap. He wouldn't be out there in the preseason.
Yeah.
I know he's a new player to the team, so they want to get him reps.
That's the whole point, I think. Him and Swift both saw action, and so it's like
to a point, maybe. But Rashaad Penny, here's the thing: he's coming in as the RB 37, translates to 92 overall, is where he should be being drafted. He's being drafted at 96 overall. It's like a 9th round pick.
Yeah, if he's on the team and
he's going to be on
the offseason,
he's going to.
Yeah, so I'm okay with that. Maybe around later, just because of that potential. Like, what if he does stay healthy for even half a season? If you can get that out of him, you're going to do well.
You could, but
on the Eagles, I mean, again, one of the best offensive lines, going to be scoring a lot of touchdowns.
Yeah, even Miles Sanders had value, and he was pretty kind of dreadful.
And maybe that's why they brought him in, is to be the pounder.
That might be it, because he would profile of the guys they have, because it's all little guys, and then Rashaad Penny. Maybe that is what his job is. Although Jalen Hurts is the pounder a lot of the time himself, and then Boston Scott they also use as the pounder, even though he's little. So you never know. But with Rashaad Penny, I'm less bullish on this because the risk is kind of baked into the ADP with the injuries, but I don't even know what his job is what scares me about this. And it's like 9th round for that. 9th, 10th, I guess. Like, by that point, it is slim pickings at running back. You know what I mean? So I get it. There is that idea. You could get a guy on a good team, maybe something pops, and if it doesn't go well, you're not totally committed to it. That's where we're going to head into the next idea because, as I said, I am a reformed DeAndre Swift apologist. I understand my previous takes. You can go find the film. DeAndre Swift, oh boy, comes in as the RB25 opening there. So the top of flex running back should translate to about 77 overall. Nope, ADP is 59.
Wow.
And I go back to my previous jokes from years gone by. His last name is Swift. So it's Swift right on the jersey. Makes it nice and easy for you. That's all you need to know. It's right on the jersey.
If he can stay healthy.
Well, it's health, but he played through injury last year a bit, and he played through in a crowded room. But the thing about that was, on a per touch basis last year, DeAndre Swift was actually very efficient.
Yes.
On a per touch basis is the key wording of that statement. Mike, you know what I'm talking about. Take us by the numbers then.
No, it's less than 150 touches, but people will talk about DeAndre Swift was a complete bust, and I think he was RB16 last year.
They were on the haterade in the back. They were on the haterade on him. I know why.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It's one of those things where the numbers were actually okay, but it feels bad.
Yeah,
because he was a second round pick last year.
Exactly.
So it feels bad.
Yes, exactly. And he averaged more points than Kenneth Walker, Jamal Williams, Najee Harris, Miles Sanders, Damian Pierce, Jonathan. Travis Etienne, which people love. He averaged more points than all these guys. Yeah, he missed 3 games, which hurts, but he was still a top 24.
Way more than 3 games. He missed 3, but played hurt a bunch more.
Yes, exactly. And again, he did that all on 148 touches, I think it was, which
that is
the
number. That is the number.
Yes.
That's the magic number. It's 148.
That's
insane. Crazy efficiency. Yes. If you could get into RB2 territory on 150 total touches, that's nuts.
Yeah.
And pedigree. He was great in Georgia. He's been great in his NFL career so far when he's healthy. He's electric. Get the ball in his hands in space and let him do stuff. I get it. I'm really not happy about having to pay a 5th round pick. You want to know why? Because we go through this every show, it feels like. I can get James Conner in the 4th round. I can get Joe Mixon in the 3rd round. I can get Nick Chubb in the 2nd round. He's creeping up, actually, in the background there. But I can get Aaron Jones in the 4th round. Why am I paying for DeAndre Swift in the 5th round in a committee? On a team that, to your Mike, you nailed it from what I was going to get into. You actually beat me to it. 25% of their plays are RPOs. Running back is taken out of the play on RPO. I don't like that. They're using him as a wide receiver. Great. Yeah. For reasons that we're going to get into next, I don't know that I care. Because he would be what? The 4th most targeted player on this team? If he's lucky?
Yeah. 2, 3.
Yeah.
He ain't getting more targets than AJ Brown. He really ain't getting more targets than Dallas Goedert. He ain't getting more targets than Devonta Smith either.
Yeah.
So you're talking about what would be the 4th most targets? Okay. Cool, I guess. They throw enough. Will he get used in the red zone? Probably. They probably all will to some level. But how are you going to predict that?
Like I said, I have Penny as the guy who's going to score the touchdowns if it's going to be there.
If it's going to be a running back.
Yeah.
If it was a running back, yeah.
But I also have him only scoring 6 and everybody else, both the other 2 got 4. That's max. I feel like that's really generous with the touchdowns for them because of the fact that Hurts is just so lethal when they're in the red zone.
So I love the player, DeAndre Swift. Same kind of thing with Jalen Hurts. Love the player a lot. Been on him historic. Don't like the ADP. I don't like that. That's really high. What would need to happen for DeAndre Swift to get into RB? He could get into RB2 relatively easily, right? Because he's only being rated at RB25. So wouldn't be too hard for him to backdoor into RB2. What would need to happen for him to get into RB1 territory?
160 touches.
How many people would need to get hurt is more what I'm thinking.
I'm not worried about him getting hurt. I think they limit him because they realize that he does get hurt. And so they don't need to beat the brakes off him. Yeah.
They don't need to. They have enough guys to spread it around. They trust all of those. with the possible exception of Rashaad Penny. They trust the other guys because they've been there for a long time. So I don't get the enthusiasm beyond he's on a good team now. We've
And
seen
he's
him have
good.
success.
Yeah.
He's good himself. Dump off passes. But they're running him out of the slot, for God's sake. And it's like, that could be cool if they throw it to him. But that presupposes the other three guys that'll probably be on the field at the same time aren't open. So I don't know, man. Makes me nervous. This makes me nervous. As a side note, if I roster DeAndre Swift in Keeper or Dynasty, I am really trying to trade him. Now is the time.
Yeah.
Now is the time. You have 2 weeks. Get it done. Get something nice.
Maybe you have like week 1 or 2, and if he hits, but yeah, trade him now if you can.
Get something pretty. Get something pretty. Get something shiny. And
he's
like
24.
now is
He's going to be 25 this year.
He's 20. He's 24. He's on a
worse
good
one.
team, and people are all excited. Now is the time. Get this done. Get him moved. Find somebody who's interested. Get it done. Like now is your time in Keeper and Dynasty. You
Make
have
sure he pitches
this
it. He's
window.
on the Eagles.
The minute that we get to halfway through the season, you're done. You're not going to get what you want. You're going to be sad. You're going to be real sad. Big sad. And then finally, Kenny Gainwell. The reason that we are all bullish on Kenny Gainwell, the narrative-based analysis that we kind of rattled through was, well, Nick Sirianni was wearing a Kenny Gainwell t-shirt. I don't care. And then
AAC product.
whatever. Don't care about that either. And then, but yeah, it's he's been with the team for a number of years. In camp and all through the preseason, he's been the RB1. He's getting rave reviews from Sirianni. They're talking
Every
about
year,
how
I feel like, though.
I know, but this year I believe it more because he got to start with the ones in the preseason game. Then he got pulled. They've been running him with the ones all through camp, and I believe that he will be the actual running back, the real running back. The real running back is Kenny Gainwell. Penny will do stuff, but like Kenny Gainwell has already got the trust of a lot of this team. He's been there for years, and he's been on the verge of breaking out in the past. He's a good prospect out of Memphis. RB 49 should translate to 139 overall. He's going at 162. This is what I want.
Yeah.
This is what I want.
And guess what? You cut him.
I'm willing to reach to 139. Guys, I'm more than happy to do it. That's fine with me. That's like an 11th round pick. 11, 12, neighborhood of that. Great. Super. Phenomenal. Love it. Love everything about it. Stash him on the end of my bench. Love it. Might be getting the RB1 for the Eagles. Might be getting an RB2 for nothing because nobody's interested. So I'm very interested in the whole Kenny Gainwell, the whole Kenny G train. Don't know why this is working the way that it is. Well, I think we do have some idea given what we've just listed off, but don't agree, I guess would be a better way to phrase that idea. Don't agree with why this is going this way. Don't really care. Gonna just pocket that and profit. We're just going to rattle off the wide receivers, right? A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. We'll deal with that in a moment, but they're back. Good at football. Got, good football players. Behind them, Quez Watkins. No. Those of you who've watched a lot of football over the years, Quez Watkins is not a thing. Never will be a thing. Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen. Behind him, Olamide Zaccheaus. No. Not a thing. Lucky to have a job. Cool name. Couldn't even make it with the Falcons. And then behind him, Greg Ward. Not a thing. Even less of a thing than Quez Watkins.
More likely to get cut.
That's the Spider-Man meme, actually, if you ask me. Greg Ward and Quez Watkins is the same thing. And yeah, Greg Ward might not even make the team. There are some guys behind that, too, that really probably won't make the team. But there's only 2 wide receivers that we care about. And really, there's not even like names to know. It's just there's 2 guys. A.J. Brown, we covered it. Came from the Titans. Been in the league for a long time. Really good football player. He's fast. He can get down the field. He can get open. He can work the short and intermediate stuff. He can catch screens. Like, he can kind of do it all. He's the true alpha for this team for a reason. And there's a reason they were willing to pay him when the Titans weren't. Because the Titans are not smart and the Eagles are, is the subtext of that decision. And Hence why
Good
the Titans
management
fired.
there.
Hence why the Titans fired their GM. That's like not long
Front
after this
office.
deal happened, they fired their GM, and I'm gonna keep bringing it up because it makes me laugh inside every time. My warms my cold, dead little heart.
No, you know what should make you laugh though? AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, wide receiver 6 and 9.
Nah, that's not exactly right. It's that presupposes what you're looking at on where you're looking at it. AJ Brown in the ECR from when I pulled it yesterday. PPR AJ Brown wide receiver 8 should be going at 12 overall end of the first round. Is going at 12 overall end of the first round. Can't debate that. Not going to try. Not debating it. If you want to spend a back end first round pick on AJ Brown, I would do the same. I would do it.
Just to touch on that, we talked about the RPOs. What that does benefit are guys like AJ Brown, because you have one option. You're not dropping back and scanning the field.
Mhm.
It's an RPO. Your offensive linemen are getting down the field to block, so you need to throw the ball. So that's why it gets funneled into these two guys, maybe three with Goedert. So
I'm
really benefits
slow.
those teams.
6 and 9 are their player numbers that they wear in the game. You're not talking about ADPs.
When did AJ Brown get a 9?
Dumb.
No, I was talking about where they finished last year.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'm trying to. You threw me so hard that I'm like, what is 6 and 9? What is he talking about? Like, because I'm reading the show sheet and I'm like, and then I'm like, wait, I said that out loud and I'm like, wait, doesn't AJ Brown wear 11? And hasn't he for like ever?
Yeah.
Like he wears, but I think Devonta Smith actually might wear 6.
I think he does. Yeah.
And that's what was throwing me there because I'm like, Devonta Smith wears 6. Like, so is that what he means? Like, no, okay, they finished at 6 and 9 last year. Oh, right. Okay, fair enough. Well, that goes a long way to explaining the hype train, right? For these two players, because they are being drafted very, very high, and it's very hard to argue against it in a lot of ways. But yeah, you want to take a back end first round pick on AJ Brown? Go nuts. Mike, I'm sorry. I completely lost the plot there. What were you were in the middle of the thought there.
No, you're good. I was just saying the RPO style offense really benefits because you have one read and it's going to go to either AJ Brown or Devonta Smith. That's why these guys, even on a pretty low passing volume team,
right,
they can both flourish as, last year, top 10, 12 guys. So,
but it won't be every week. You have to realize that more likely one of them is going to get targeted.
That does tend to happen. There is a little bit of it depends on how the opposing defense schemes. Actually, I find a lot of the time, sometimes they scheme to take AJ Brown away. And then sometimes they are like, no, we'll let AJ Brown do something. And we're going to scheme to like deal with Smith and maybe work something over the middle of the field to try and nerf Goedert. And then that's the problem with this team, is that they have so many weapons that it's so hard to deploy that they can beat you in a number of different ways. Devonta Smith comes in as the wide receiver 13, so only 5 spots lower than AJ Brown. Would translate to about 32 overall. His ADP is 29. I'm not going to lie to you. That scares me a little. I'm not going to roster too much Devonta Smith personally at 29. I mean, if it's there, I guess I'll have it depending on what else is available. But that one to me is, I get it. He finished at wide receiver 9 last year. He had a nice season.
Had 5 games under 10 points.
Yeah, that's part of it. Is why I kind of don't like.
One of them was a 0 his first week when Brown showed up.
This works a lot. Yeah, the 0 really scared people. The thing with this is this reminds me kind of like the Bengals.
Yeah, I wanted to ask that, like, I think people viewing this are going to see, because we were very high on Higgins. So people viewing this are saying, well, what's the difference between T. Higgins and Devonta Smith, right? They're basically
the
going
offensive
in the same
scheme,
range.
right?
So yeah. No, I was just
Jalen Hurts
from a viewer's point of view.
No, you're doing what I want you to do. Expand that thought further. Keep going.
Yeah, so you're thinking, what's the difference between T. Higgins and Devonta Smith? They're going in the same range. They both average like 15 points a game, although T. Higgins had a couple games where that brought his average down. They're both kind of boom or bust. I mean, just looking at the game log, like T. Higgins less so, but he had a couple games where he's not giving you many points. So people are saying, like, why do we love T. Higgins? Why not Devonta Smith? So I think maybe we should touch on that.
It's because of the whole RPO thing you just mentioned is really the answer to that question. It's because T. Higgins, even in his bad games, you do get a little bit more of a floor. And you're talking about the Bengals, which just throws more passes. There's more pass attempts on the Bengals to go around as opposed to the Eagles. The Eagles, you get a decent amount of pass attempts, but it's split really between 3 guys. The 2 guys we're talking about and the guy we're going to close with in a second here. And then the Bengals throws at a way higher clip, and they can really support 2 wide receivers, like a true 1A, 1B type of thing, and it's less peaky. With the Eagles, you get a lot of peaks and valleys. With the Bengals, it's not as peaky. But what's interesting is they get drafted about the same.
Yeah.
Higgins and Smith are kind of in the same neighborhood, and Brown and Chase are both first-round picks. So there is some high correlation there. The other one you could, if you want to do it, there's one other team that works this way, and it would be the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And it's the same kind of logic. The Dolphins throw more. That's just what it is. Like, it's so that's why you're telling me, like, why are you not afraid of Waddle then? And why do you like Higgins so much? It's like, because those teams throw more down the field. They're not really running that RPO style. I like Smith fine as a player and a prospect.
Also, worse defenses.
Yeah, but that is true.
Yeah. And neither of those teams have, I think, who we're going to talk about, a third option as good as the Eagles do.
That's correct.
And one note is Devonta Smith's most consistent stretch of games where he was, averaged basically 4 or 5 catches or had at least 60 yards was when Dallas Goedert was out those 5 games. So you didn't have a bust game during that stretch. You did when Goedert was there.
Absolutely the point I wanted to close on. It's perfect. It's exactly where I wanted to end that, because that is the other thing that I think people are not remembering is that there was parts of the year where Brown was beat up and Goedert wasn't playing and Smith was racking it up. And it's like, I could not guarantee that that's going to happen again. So, folks, if you're talking about a back end, second, early, third round pick, I'm going to take somebody else. Because at that point in the draft, there will still be other names that I like more.
Mike Higgins.
Well, Higgins will be gone by that point, more than likely. He'll go in the second round. But yeah, I'm not super in on Devonta Smith. Like I said, AJ Brown back into the first, knock yourself out. Devonta Smith, end of the second, beginning of third. There's probably a running back I want, or some other receiver. I'm just gonna let somebody else deal with that. It might pan out for him. I can't say it won't. Right? I can't predict the future to that level. But there's too many little. There's not one big problem. There's lots of little problems, and that's kind of what I don't like. But we've talked about Goedert a bunch of times. We'll just close with it. Dallas Goedert's been on this team for a million billion years, right? He finally buried Zach Ertz and they shipped him off, and that's the end of that. And so he finally gets the room to himself, which is what people have always wanted. And when he was healthy last year, he showed you why. Because he's a consistent safety blanket for Jalen Hurts. He is his binky. And what a binky to have. What a whoopee. Boy, you wrap yourself up in that safety blanket and you just ride off into the sun with it, because that is a quality safety blanket with Dallas Goedert. He's got elite level hands. He's fast. He knows the route tree. Great tight end. He so much so that he comes in as the tight end 6. He should be going around 91 overall. He's going at 71. So you ain't getting no discount on Dallas Goedert. And for that reason, I will not roster much Dallas Goedert, because you know my philosophy of waiting on tight end. Not a comment on Dallas Goedert.
Yeah.
Get out of my comments and my tweets with, why do you hate Dallas Goedert? I don't hate Dallas Goedert. I don't hate Dallas Goedert. I don't hate DeAndre Swift. I don't hate Jalen Hurts. I hate their ADPs. What it is. The backup is Dan Arnold, who I love. Put some respect on Dan Arnold's name. That man gets no love. Been disrespected his whole career.
2 first names, always a crowd pleaser.
It is always a crowd pleaser. Did you guys have any reason for optimism? Do you want to draft Dallas Goedert in the top of the what is the 6th round at that point?
It's a discount. I mean, compared to the top end tight ends, it's a discount.
It's a slight haircut. I'll give you that much. I just don't find myself reaching for tight end at this level. If I was gonna do it, it would be
on the
Goedert.
same page here. Yeah.
If it was gonna do it, it would be Goedert. If I was gonna take a tight end in the 6th round, it would be Goedert. I just don't find myself going that direction, roster construction wise. It's not even I think he's bad. It's just,
if you ask me Goedert in the 6th or Hawkinson in the 3rd, give me Goedert all day.
I would do that for sure. I would 100% do that. That's I'll take my 3-round discount. Thank you very much. 100%.
But I'm not going to draft him if he happens to fall for whatever reason. Late 7th, 8th round. Okay, I'll snatch.
I might snatch him there, because that would be closer to where he should be being rated.
Mhm.
1.5 rounds later, effectively. That's where he should be going. And if he was going there, I'd have less of an issue. But because of projection inflation and this is a good team and people like Goedert, this is the reality that we live in where it's just hard for me to end up rostering him, I find. But yeah. There you go, folks. Fly, Eagles, fly. Jason, serenade us out the door.
Fly, Eagles, fly. On the road to victory. Fight, fight, fight. Fight.
Until
Eagles,
then,
fight.
Tune in tomorrow when we
Score
talk about the
touchdown,
Pittsburgh
1, 2,
Steelers.
3.
And until then, keep up the nonsense.
I'm Tim Kitzer from NBA Jam and NFL Blitz, and you can find all the guys at ImportantNonsense.com. Kaboom!